Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Ann Taylor Pittman. I'm executive editor at Cooking Light, and today I'm going to share a really fun burger recipe. I'll be making banh mi burgers, which take some of the classic flavorings of the Vietnamese sandwich that we all love and turning it into burger form. You know, we're always looking for ways to kind of spruce up our burgers or do something a little different, and this is a really fun way. So I'm gonna start with the beef. I've got my grill pan here heating up. You can definitely do this on a charcoal grill if you would like. So I'm starting with some really lean ground beef, and I have some a really cool trick that we've learned at Cooking Light for how to increase the moisture while keeping the saturated fat down in the beef. So I'll share that with you in just a second, but first I'm gonna add 3/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper, a teaspoon of grated ginger, grated fresh ginger, and then we want 2 teaspoons of grated garlic. I have 1 teaspoon already grated, and I kind of wanted to just show you why you want to grate it. So I have a microplane here and a garlic clove, and let me just get this guy going. You want to grate it if you have one of these microplanes because it just makes basically a garlic paste. It's much quicker than trying to mince, and it gets a much finer product that just disperses into the burger a lot better. Love grated garlic. It's wonderful in salad dressings if you're making a vinaigrette so that you don't have little chewy bits of garlic. If you grate it, it just creates this fine, wonderful paste to work with. I'm going to put on gloves here to mix up my meat mixture. Okay, so like I said, I'm starting with really lean ground beef. It's 93% lean, which could make for a less than ideal burger. But what I'm doing here is I'm adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I can understand or anticipate what your questions might be. Why add oil to lean ground beef? Why not just start with ground beef that has a little more fat in it? Well, because the fat in ground beef is saturated fat. And we want to watch how much saturated fat we eat. That's the unhealthy fat. Olive oil it's all fat, but it's good for you fat. It's the heart-healthy monounsaturated fat that you want to eat more of and include more in your diet. So I just mix that into the beef, and it's going to boost the unctuousness and the moisture in the meat. Just mix it up really quickly with those wonderful seasonings of the fresh ginger and fresh garlic. I'm gonna make 4 patties here. Always kind of portion things out in the bowl. When you're shaping beef for burgers, you don't want to work it too much. You don't want to like compress it and compact it too hard, because then you're going to compress and compact the meat so that it might be a little less tender than you'd like. I always try to make a little bit of an indentation in the middle, because as the meat cooks, it wants to shrink up into the middle and kind of puff up in the middle. But if I make that indentation, that will sort of compensate for that tendency of the meat to do that. Okay. So this is a really fun idea. You know, people love banh mi, they love Vietnamese food. This just infuses some of those flavors and some of that freshness, which we'll see in just a minute, into the burgers. Don't worry if the edges are kind of craggy. In fact, I kind of like that because it creates more edges that will get browned. You know what? I did not do a super great job of very evenly portioning this meat. That's okay. Someone might just get a little bit of a smaller burger patty. You know what? I'm going to steal a little bit from this guy. And this guy. That's fine. No one has to know. Again, making that indentation, just kind of pressing down in the middle there so that as the meat cooks and shrinks up, it doesn't just poof in the middle. Okay, so my burgers are going, and that's one step. So the thing that makes banh mi so delicious, or one of the things, is the pickled vegetables. So I'm going to very quickly make a concentrated pickling liquid so that it infuses the vegetables very quickly. I have a 1/2 cup of water and a 1/2 cup of rice vinegar. Ideally, you want to go for unseasoned rice vinegar. And then I'm adding a 1/4 cup of sugar. Now I know that sounds like a lot of sugar. Don't freak out, because most of this drains out. Like I said, we're making a very concentrated pickling liquid so that it infuses the vegetables with flavor very quickly. I'm going to put that on back here.
And we have a question.
Great.
Can you sub the rice vinegar for any other kind of vinegar?
Yes, you can. So you could use, my first suggestion would be to use cider vinegar. It's going to be a little bit softer and milder in flavor the way that rice vinegar is. When you get into white wine vinegar or red wine vinegar or white distilled vinegar, the flavor is definitely sharper. So if you're using those, maybe back off a little bit on the vinegar. It might just be a little bit too sharp. So instead of using half a cup, maybe try 6 tablespoons. Okay, so the vegetables that we're going to do here are carrots that are matchstick cut. You can buy matchstick cut carrots in the grocery store, or you can cut them by hand. I did that today because I like cooking. You know, sometimes it's like very meditative, you know, to just do a lot of chopping, and I have a very stressful day when I leave here and go back to my desk. It's very stressful, so I enjoy the methodical work of chopping. Anyway, so I have a cup of matchstick carrots, and then I need a cup of these cucumber ribbons, which are really easy and fun to make. So you just start with a vegetable peeler. I typically don't include the first strip because honestly, it's just not as pretty. I can set that aside. I will probably snack on it. I was snacking on all kinds of cucumber trimmings earlier. And then just take your vegetable peeler and go down the length of the cucumber. I cut this one in half because if you were to go the whole length of the cucumber, the strips might be just a little bit unwieldy, a little bit too long. A Y-shaped peeler seems to be a little bit easier for this type of job than the other type of peeler, but certainly either one would work. Sorry, little strip. I'm just going to set you aside. So I only need a cup, and I'm almost probably at about a cup. I typically, once I get down to the seeds in the cucumber, those slices start getting very watery. I know this is a seedless cucumber, but you can see where there are sort of the imprint of what would be seeds. And that part tends to get a little watery. So I usually stop about there and I snack on this. I ate so much of this while I was prepping for this Facebook Live today. Okay, so I have those going. My vinegar mixture will come to a boil here in just a second. Let me look. It's just about there. Let me go ahead and flip these burgers. See how they're doing. They're cooking up nicely.
And we have a question. Can you sub zucchini for the cucumber?
I'm so sorry.
Can you sub zucchini for the cucumber?
You could substitute zucchini for the cucumber. That's a great idea. I've made pickles with zucchini, and it would work really beautifully. It would be just to have a little bit of a softer crunch. You know, cucumber is super, super crunchy. The zucchini would just have a little softer texture. But that's a great idea, especially this time of year. If you garden and you have a ton of zucchini, that's a wonderful idea. Okay, let me grab my liquid. Liquid is boiling. Sugar has dissolved. I'm going to pour this over those vegetables. Get some vinegar fumes. Okay, so the hot vinegar mixture goes over the vegetables, and that just needs to stand. Ideally, maybe pop it in the fridge for 15 to 30 minutes. You could also make this well in advance. You can make it a few days in advance. The longer it sits, the more the vinegar flavor it will absorb. And I have some that I made ahead over here. And you lose a little bit of that vibrant green color from the cucumber. It gets a little, you know, it loses a little bit of the bright green and turns a different shade of green. It's fine. Taste that. Wonderful. Just lightly sweet. I know I said, you know, don't worry about the sugar. And don't. It doesn't taste too sweet. It's just lightly sweetened, lightly cured. Okay. So while my burgers finish, let me make the sauce. So this is one of the most delicious parts of the burger, I think. So we start with mayonnaise, and we're using canola mayonnaise. We like that because it's lowest in saturated fat. You could also use an olive oil mayo. If you're not worried about saturated fat, you could certainly use a traditional mayo. To that, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of sriracha, rooster sauce. Now, if you're sensitive to heat, don't add it, or use a little bit less. It's going to be sort of medium spicy, not like flaming, oh my gosh, I can't take this spicy. But it's definitely going to add a kick. And then some fresh lime juice. It's just going to perk up the flavor, be so, so good. Okay. Set that there. So my components are coming together. My beef is just about done. Okay. And then the last thing is just toasted buns and cilantro sprigs. Now, cilantro is traditional in a banh mi sandwich. If you don't like cilantro, you can leave it out, but I encourage you to try it because it's so delicious and it's a key flavor for this type of sandwich. And maybe if you don't like it, sort of in some applications, you might like it in this burger because the bun sort of tones things down, the sauce does too. Okay, so let me go ahead and start saucing up some of these buns. I'm going to reveal something. I'm not going to sauce all the buns because there's a crew member who's really wonderful who does not like mayonnaise and asked if I could maybe leave the mayo sauce off of one of them so that he can enjoy it. This is for you. This is for you. For the rest of us, we'll have this sort of secret sauce. This recipe makes 4 burgers. You could absolutely double it if you're serving a larger group at a cookout. And it's just fun. It's just a fun twist on the usual burgers. Nothing wrong with the usual burgers, but sometimes, you know, you just want to switch things up. So you get a fair amount of sauce per burger. I mean, probably even more than that. Considering I'm not saucing this burger, I still have a good bit of sauce left, so that's kind of nice. And even if you don't like mayonnaise, and I'm not talking to you, unnamed person here, even if you don't like mayonnaise, you might like this because it doesn't taste like mayonnaise. It tastes more like the sriracha, and it's very kind of bright and fresh from the lime juice. Okay, so I'm gonna, let's see, I have tops, bottoms. Okay, so let me see. Not all of these burgers are done, but it looks like a couple of them are. So I'm gonna put a burger patty here on the bottom bun. Sorry. Oh, taste that. The garlic, grated garlic in a burger is so, so good. Adds tons of flavor. I don't know if you noticed this, but I didn't even add any salt to the burgers. They don't need it. The sauce is going to provide plenty of flavor. These pickled vegetables are going to as well. So I'm just going to pile these veggies on. Really fun here. Let me grab one more burger. Got it. Looks done. Now the USDA safe cooking temperature for ground beef is 160 degrees. If you're buying your meat from a trusted source, you can cook it a little bit less than that, which is honestly the way I prefer mine. Just because it makes them a little bit juicier. So I love the pickled vegetables here. They offer crunch. They offer that kind of bright, tangy flavor. I'm going to put some of these cilantro sprigs, and kind of a fair amount of them. All I did with these cilantro sprigs was just pinch off the kind of tougher bottom parts of the stems. It's kind of fun to pile on a good bit. Again, even if you don't like cilantro in this context, I think it's really, really nice. And then the last thing, if you want some heat, I have some serrano chilies that I've sliced up. I'm going to put them here on the sauce part of the bun so that it kind of glues them on and holds them in place. It's so wonderful to bite in and get that sort of bracing heat in a bite.
And we have a few questions.
Oh, great.
If someone wanted to add cheese, what kind would be good on this burger?
I wanted to add cheese. Ooh, that's a good question. It's definitely not traditional, but you know, this is actually a non-traditional take on a traditional sandwich. I would say maybe something like a Monterey Jack or something kind of mild that won't compete with the other flavors that are going on here. So maybe a Monterey Jack or like a provolone or something pretty mild and melty, I think would be nice.
And then one more question.
Okay,
How
great.
long will the pickled veggies be safe to eat?
The pickled veggies, how long will they be safe? I would say I wouldn't keep them any longer than 5 days. They might still be safe after that, but they're going to start breaking down a little bit. So I would just go maybe 5 days. Okay, so I have 3 here all made up and ready to go. That is Banh Mi burgers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you got a fun idea that you can try your next cookout. Please share and like this video. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe so you'll get notifications when we go live. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next week.